Okay, could you share your name and
I'm Carolyn
what brought you out
Fargo.
today?
I'm Carolyn Fargo, 6147 West Eck Court, Milwaukee. My phone number is 327-3861. I'm a longtime member of, I'm a longtime associated with MPS. My kids both went to MPS and did really well, and I think this has been a great school system at one time. But and I think that what's caused the problem is partly the choice school system. And the first time I got really frustrated about the mayoral takeover was when I wanted to have input into what was going on with the mayor's committee, and I called and asked, well, why are you having just the MMAC, which always shows up as a bad penny, on your committee, and you don't have anybody from that's a teacher? And they did have one person, I think, from a charter school, but they didn't take the person who was from the union, which was Bob Peterson. I asked the mayor one time, because I cornered him at a thing at Washington Park. I asked him what, why he wouldn't take Bob Peterson, and he said because he's white, male, and old. So in other words, he wants somebody who's naive and doesn't know anything about the history of the school system, and he wants somebody he can push around, and so he's going to get some young person. And if he doesn't think Bob Peterson cares about the school system, he's crazy. And so that was one of my first situations that I talked to them about this. When I called the mayor's office, they told me to go to his website, and what I found on the website was that his proposal is to do what they did in New York, Washington, and Chicago. That was about the full amount of it. There was nothing about what he would actually do with the school system. My sister teaches in the Bronx. She says that the mayoral takeover has been a disaster there. She is a very creative person, and as long as she keeps her creativity secret, she's fine. But that they want people to teach to the test. She spends a lot of time testing her kids, but she also still does a lot of the great things that she did. She's been written up by magazines saying what a great teacher she is. That's because she's creative, and that's what they're discouraging there right now. They're teaching to the test. I understand from Frontline that it's the same thing in Washington and Chicago. What they need to do in Milwaukee is to look at what works. For instance, St. Paul was talked about on public access for being one of the school systems that can compete internationally. My daughter taught there, and now she teaches in MPS. When she was in the St. Paul school system, what they did was they gave a lot of teacher support, staff development. It was made very clear to them that they wanted the teachers to succeed. For example, they have 5 days at the beginning of the school year to get their classrooms ready, to talk with colleagues to get ready. West Allis does that, by the way, here, because I'm a substitute teacher there. I used to be a Milwaukee public school teacher, but I've retired from Milwaukee. They have 5 days ahead of time to get ready for their classes. That's just an example. Another thing they need to do is to look at what's best practices. If you look at the science behind education, you'll find that the evidence shows that something like music, this is an example, music actually makes children learn better language skills, and it helps with their math scores. Wouldn't it be better to look at things like that? What could we do in Milwaukee Public Schools? By the way, I understand the new school board is trying to get more music into the classrooms. They're trying to find things that are best practices. It's just that they're a lot short on money. But right now, we're turning the corner. It makes me wonder why the mayoral takeover is right now. We have one of the best school boards that we've ever had. We have educators on there. We have people who are intelligent. We have a 5 to, I think it's a 6 to, I'm not sure what but we have a majority now of people who are not trying to privatize the schools and therefore trying to run down the schools. We have a good, this is the time that MMAC and the Bradley Foundation are trying to push this new thing with the mayor. And why all of a sudden was Barbara Lawton kicked out? And all these things, I'm wondering, why is all this stuff happening right now? And why are they promising to the people who are proponents of this to become mayor and county executive after the thing? I think there's a lot of real bad shenanigans going on behind the scenes, and I'm really upset about that.
Could I ask you a real quick question about that?
Yes.
You referred to New York, where your relative, your sister's, one of the things that I heard was that the mayor in one of the most heavily financed electoral campaigns to maintain his seat as mayor ran against a former school board member because the mayoral takeover is so unpopular there, and he had to spend $100 million to just squeak out a victory. So it begs the question, wouldn't mayoral takeover open up a can of worms in terms of the political stakes or the political machinations?
Well, I think Milwaukee is kind of a can of worms. I think there's a lot of real bad things that go on in Milwaukee already, and a lot of snakes and things that are going on. But I'm not sure I understand New York that well, except for just what my sister has told me. But that makes sense what you're saying, that it would make a lot of things difficult here if we did that. And so, yes. One of the things that I've noticed when I've talked to people in Milwaukee is that the hiring practices are very bad. People keep saying that they're trying to be good teachers in Milwaukee, but I know of at least 12 people who have applied for Milwaukee who have master's degrees, who are in areas like ESL and special education, who have been turned down. There's a woman named Julie Landry who is in the hiring department. She purposely leaves out people, and when I was at Juneau High School as a teacher, the person next to me was a Spanish teacher. That person had a master's degree. When the new school board, when the old school board, not this one that's in here now, came in, they started discouraging really good teachers, and we got one after another of teachers who were unqualified, and MPS is now hiring on the cheap. That's something that could be looked into, but it can't. The union can't do it because these people haven't been hired for before they are turned down. So, and my daughter is really qualified for what she's doing. She's got a master's in ESL, and she's been teaching for quite a while in Minnesota. When she came here, she was told there were no positions for ESL by Julie Landry. That is hogwash, because they do definitely need people for that area. Julie Landry came an hour late to the Madison job fair in t-shirts and blue jeans, and said that they didn't have any positions for anybody. She had no list of positions open. Somebody needs to look into that. What's going on in the personnel department in Milwaukee? Another thing that happened during the last administration was decentralization. It used to be when you had in MPS, if you had a problem and you needed an engineer, they would send one out because it was a central service. Now what's happened is you've got each principal is responsible for the budget. And so if you have someone who doesn't understand budgets, and also somebody who's forced then to choose, do I have another teacher? Do I clean the halls? When I was at Juneau, there was a hamburger in the hall for over a month. And I usually picked up the halls, but I didn't pick up that hamburger because I wanted to find out what would happen. It was disgraceful. The principal was trying to do what she could. She could either have a social worker or she could have somebody to clean the halls, because they had somebody that was sick a lot. She couldn't afford to have somebody clean the halls, so the teachers were expected to do it on their lunchtime. There are situations that are untenable. And those are the things we should be looking into, but nobody wants to look at the dirty laundry in Milwaukee. There are problems there, but the problems are not being addressed by changing the mayor.